My name is Lena. I'm 33, and until this year, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I had a husband, two daughters, a stable job as a marketing consultant, and a neat little house in the suburbs. From the outside, it looked like I had everything I ever wanted. And for a long time, I believed that too. It all started with a New Year's resolution: get stronger, feel better, maybe fit into my pre baby jeans again. Just the usual. Ben, my husband, bought me a personal training package as a gift. "You never take time for yourself," he said, with that smile that was both sweet and a little too satisfied. That's how I met her. Her name was Arya, and she didn't look like any coach I expected. She was 29, maybe 30. Athletic, sure, but there was something more. She carried herself like she knew exactly who she was, and didn't need anyone else's permission to be it. Her dark curls were tied up in a messy bun. Her tank top clung to her like a second skin, and when she smiled, I forgot where I was. "Lena?" she asked, her voice warm and curious. "First session?" I nodded, suddenly self-conscious in my old leggings and oversized hoodie. "Yep, that's me." "Let's get started," she said, leading me into her studio. It wasn't like a gym. No mirrors, no machines, no blaring music, just clean mats, sunlight from tall windows, and the faint smell of citrus and sweat. "We'll go slow," she promised. "I'll help you reconnect with your body." Her words sounded simple, but the way she said them made me blush. During the first few stretches, her hands guided my shoulders, my hips, the angle of my spine. "May I adjust you?" she asked every time. Always respectful, always soft-spoken. But her touch, God, her touch, it sent electricity through me. My heart raced in ways it hadn't in years, and not from the exercise. "Relax your shoulders," she murmured behind me, pressing her palm gently against my upper back. "Let go of the tension." I wanted to let go of more than that. I wanted to melt, and that terrified me. Later, as I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the way her eyes caught mine in the mirror during a plank, or how she smiled when I nailed a position right. It was just a fitness session. Just exercise. But my hands trembled when I peeled off my hoodie. And that night, when Ben kissed me goodnight, I didn't kiss him back. Not really. The following week, I showed up early. I told myself it was to stretch, to get a head start. Truthfully, I just wanted to see her. Spend a few extra minutes in her orbit. Arya greeted me with that same casual charm. "Back already? I thought last week scared you off." "Not a chance," I said, trying to sound normal. This session was more intense. She worked me hard. Push-ups, balance drills, resistance bands. But every time she touched me, even just briefly to correct my form, my breath caught. "You've got more strength than you think," she said, watching me push through another rep. I smiled through the burn. "You must say that to everyone." "Only when it's true," she said, locking eyes with me. Something shifted then. A beat of silence. A glance that lingered. I looked away first, heart pounding in my chest. That night, I lay awake long after Ben fell asleep. My muscles ached, but it wasn't the workout that kept me tossing. It was her. The way she looked at me, the way I wanted her to look at me again. I hadn't felt this alive in years. The next session was different. Charged. Maybe it was me, maybe it was her, but the air between us felt thinner. Aria was more careful with her touch, but when our fingers brushed, neither of us pulled away. "You're improving fast," she said. "Most people don't have this kind of body awareness." "I've been trying to focus," I replied, trying not to show how much her praise meant. She smiled softly. "I can tell." Later, as we wrapped up, she handed me a bottle of water. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, meeting her eyes. This is new for me, all of it." Arya didn't push. She simply nodded. It's okay to not have all the answers. But her voice, her gaze, made one thing clear. She had questions too. It was a Wednesday when I received the message. Aria. Hey, I have the studio to myself Friday night. Thought of trying something new, less structured, more fluid. You in? I read it 3 times. No emojis, no flirty tone, just enough ambiguity to make my heart race. That day, everything felt off. Coffee tasted flat, my meetings dragged. I kept checking my phone as if she'd send a follow-up that would clarify what she meant. But she didn't. She didn't need to. I already knew. I told Ben I was working late. Told myself it wasn't a lie if I didn't say it out loud. Friday evening, I stood outside the studio door, heart thumping against my rib cage like it wanted to escape. I wore black leggings and a fitted tank top under my coat, but it wasn't the workout gear that made me nervous. It was the lipstick I'd applied. Soft plum, not too bold, but noticeable enough if someone was really looking. Aria opened the door before I knocked. Her curls were loose tonight, tumbling over her shoulders, and she wore soft joggers and a charcoal gray t-shirt that hung just right. "Hey," she said, smiling like this was just another day. "Hey," I replied, trying to mirror her calm. The studio was dimly lit, just a floor lamp glowing in the corner. No music, no yoga mats laid out, just open space. She tilted her head toward the back. "Want some tea before we begin?" I nodded, following her to the small kitchenette. She poured 2 mugs, green tea with honey, the smell grounding me more than the drink ever could. We sat on the floor, our backs against the wall, the silence comfortable but heavy. She took a sip, then looked at me carefully. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wasn't either," I admitted. There it was again, that pause, the space between honesty and danger. "I wanted to stretch your body differently tonight," she said, setting her mug down. My stomach flipped. "I mean," she added quickly, "slow things down. Tune in. Sometimes our bodies speak before we even know what they're saying." I exhaled. What if I don't want to hear what it's saying? Aria studied me for a moment. "Then maybe it's not your body that's scared. Maybe it's your mind." She stepped closer and I didn't move. "I won't touch you unless you want me to," she said softly. "But if you do, I'll show you what it means to feel safe and seen." Her words hit something inside me that had been locked away for years, not just the desire. I'd felt that before, but the recognition, the quiet knowing. I nodded, unable to speak. She extended her hand. "Come here." I took it. She guided me into the center of the room, her touch light but certain. We began to stretch. Nothing fancy. Shoulders, arms, hips. She moved behind me, adjusting my form, aligning me with breath and posture. "Close your eyes," she whispered. "Feel. Don't think." I obeyed. Her hand slid gently down my spine, stopping at my waist. She lingered just long enough for me to feel the warmth of her fingers through the fabric of my tank top. "You're holding tension," she said. "Let it go." I wanted to. I needed to. She moved to face me. I opened my eyes. She was close. Close enough that I could smell the soft citrus in her hair. Close enough that I could feel the moment hanging between us like a held breath. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said truthfully. "But I want to be." She brushed a strand of hair from my cheek, her fingers grazing my jaw. "You can stop me any time." But I didn't. I leaned in first. Our lips met softly, hesitant, questioning. But when she kissed me back, it was with the kind of certainty that steals the ground from under your feet. There was no rush, no frenzy, just her mouth on mine, her hands resting lightly on my hips, as if she knew this was my first time tasting something I never knew I craved. When we finally pulled apart, I didn't feel guilt. I felt breathless, unburdened. We sat in silence again, our fingers tangled, her head on my shoulder. I didn't speak because I didn't know what to say. Aria didn't ask for answers. She simply stayed with me in the stillness. Eventually I whispered, "This changes everything." She nodded. Only if you want it to. I wasn't ready to unravel my entire life, but I was ready to stop lying to myself. For the first time in years, I wanted more than just survival. I wanted truth. And even if it was messy and complicated and painful, I wanted her in it. The morning after Arya kissed me, the air felt different. Sunlight came through the blinds in pale streaks as I lay in bed next to Ben. He was already scrolling through emails, sipping coffee, and telling me about some article I should read. I nodded at the right places, smiled, got up, showered, made breakfast for the girls. But everything I did felt like going through the motions, like I was watching myself from the outside, because part of me was still in that studio, kneeling on the floor, feeling Arya's lips on mine, and her voice in my ear saying, "Oh, only if you want it to." I didn't see her that week. I skipped my Monday session and sent a vague message about a deadline. She didn't follow up, didn't ask questions. That made it harder somehow. If she had pushed, I might have pulled away. But she didn't. She gave me space. And in that space, the silence roared. On Wednesday night, I sat in my car outside the studio. I hadn't told Ben where I was going, just said, "I need some air." He barely looked up from his laptop. The lights were off inside, the windows dim. Maybe she wasn't there. I texted her. "Me. You free to talk?" A minute passed. Then, "Arya. Come in. Back door's open." I walked slowly through the alley, heart hammering with every step. The studio door creaked open into a soft warmth, candles lit low, the faint scent of sandalwood in the air. No mats, no music, just her, sitting cross-legged on the floor, waiting for me. "You came," she said, her voice low but steady. I nodded, closing the door behind me. I had to. She didn't move to greet me, didn't reach out. She just looked at me the way she always did, without expectation, but full of knowing. "I've been playing out what to say all week," I confessed, "but nothing feels right." "You don't owe me anything," Arya said. I sat down across from her, close but not touching. "I owe myself honesty, though." She waited. "I wasn't looking for this," I said. "I wasn't even thinking about it. But now, I can't unfeel it." A flicker of a smile touched her lips. "Neither can I. But I have a whole life outside this room," I said. "A life I built carefully. Kids, a partner, a routine. And I don't know how to break it without breaking everything else." Arya looked at me gently. "You don't have to break anything. But you also don't have to keep living a life that shrinks you." Her words hit like a chord I hadn't heard, played in years. "I'm scared," I whispered. "Of losing what you have," she asked, "or of becoming who you really are?" Tears pricked my eyes before I could stop them. "Both." She reached out then, not to hold me, but to brush the back of my hand with her fingers. "I'll wait. However long you need. You don't have to rush this." I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to bury my face in her shoulder and cry for all the years I spent pretending everything was fine. But instead, I sat still. I breathed, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel trapped by the question of, "What now?" I felt free to ask, "Who am I becoming?" That night, I didn't lie to Ben. I told him I'd been with someone I trusted. I didn't say it was a woman. I didn't say anything about a kiss, but when he asked, "Is there something I should know?" I looked him in the eye and said, "Maybe, but I'm still figuring it out." He nodded, quietly. "I'm here when you're ready." That was the moment I knew. My life might fall apart, but it wouldn't be destroyed. Not completely. Maybe there was room to rebuild it, on my terms. On Friday, I returned to the studio. Not for a session, not to talk. Just to be with Arya. We didn't do much. Shared a smoothie, listened to music, sat close, legs barely touching. She didn't ask for anything, and that was everything. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't trying to fix, perform, or prove. I was just trying to be. And in that stillness, with her, I was closer to myself than I'd ever been. The truth came in pieces, not all at once, not like a thunderclap or a dramatic speech, just quiet steps forward. Me, slowly shedding the life I had worn for years like a coat that didn't quite fit. It had been a month since that night in Arya's studio. Since the kiss, since the silence, since the questions that kept me up at night. I still lived in the same house, still made dinner, still packed lunches and checked homework, but something had shifted. I was no longer performing the role of a woman who had everything figured out. I was a woman unraveling and rebuilding. Ben noticed. One night, after the girls were in bed, he turned to me and asked, "Are you in love with her?" He didn't say Arya's name, but he didn't need to. His voice was calm, almost too calm. I looked down at the chipped coffee mug in my hand. I don't know if it's love, but she made me feel awake. Ben sighed. "You haven't looked at me like that in a long time." I nodded, tears threatening to rise. "I know." He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just sat there, defeated in that quiet way that makes guilt settle into your bones. But I didn't take it back. I couldn't. Because what I felt wasn't just about Arya. It was about truth, about years of burying my instincts under responsibility and routine, about all the small ways I'd lied to myself in order to keep the peace. "I never meant to hurt you," I said. "I know," he replied. And then, softly, "So what now?" It wasn't a clean break. There were tears, late-night conversations, and 1,000 logistical puzzles to solve. But we agreed to separate. Kindly, carefully. We told the kids that Mom and Dad still loved them, just not the same way we used to love each other. And somehow, they understood more than I expected. Maybe children always sense the shift before adults are willing to admit it. I didn't rush to move in with Arya. We didn't leap into a new life together. That wasn't what either of us needed. Instead, I took time. Found a small apartment near the girls' school, created a space that felt like mine. Not perfect, not polished, but honest. Arya visited the first weekend I moved in. She brought a plant. "You'll need something alive in here," she joked, setting it on the windowsill. She didn't kiss me right away. She waited, standing by the door, letting me decide. I walked up to her, reached for her hand, and kissed her gently. This time, there was no fear, no guilt. Just a quiet knowing. We built something slowly after that. No rushing, no pretending. Some weekends, she stayed over. Some nights, I needed space to fall asleep alone, to breathe, to recalibrate. She understood. She always had. We took walks. We cooked together. We argued about music and made up over wine. She didn't try to fix me. She held space for me to figure out who I was becoming. And in time, I realized I was no longer afraid to name it. I was a woman who had fallen in love with another woman. Not because I was running from something, because I was running toward myself. Months passed. I got better at telling the truth, not just to others, but to myself. Some friends faded away, unsure how to understand the change. But new ones arrived, curious, supportive, warm. Ben and I found a rhythm, co-parents, respectful, civil, occasionally even kind. The girls adjusted. Children do. What mattered most to them was that they were loved. That hadn't changed. One night, curled up next to Arya on the couch, my head resting on her chest, she whispered, "Do you regret anything?" I thought about it. About the years I spent pretending. About the time I lost not knowing what I truly needed. About the pain I caused by finally choosing myself. And yet, no, I said quietly, because it brought me here. Arya kissed the top of my head and held me a little tighter. Not every story has a happy ending, but some stories, like mine, don't need endings at all, just beginnings. And this, finally, was mine.